All right. So, if you'll take a second to introduce yourself, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your position, and your career path.
I am Larissa Philpot. I'm the president and CEO of the Nacogdoches Economic Development Corporation. I am a two-time SFA alumni. I got my bachelor's degree in environmental science in 2004. And at that point, I was right before I graduated, I was an intern with the city of Nacogdoches. And when I graduated, I was lucky enough to be offered a position as the assistant city planner. Then started working on my master's degree. And right when I finished my master's degree, the planner position, city planning position came open. Had some kind of minor promotions throughout there, kind of title changes, more responsibilities, not more money, but more better title promotions throughout the next couple of years. And then about 4 years ago, I was given the opportunity to come over to NEDCO and lead the office over here. And so I am excited. I'm excited to get to continue to be in Nacogdoches and just excited to work with people in the community.
So, a big part of your job with the Economic Development Corporation is that you interact with a lot of employers who are either currently established in the Nacogdoches area or ones who are interested in potentially locating, starting a business here or relocating their business here. So, tell us a little bit about what those employers are looking for in terms of professionalism within their potential hires and why that skill is so important for our students to acquire.
Sure. Professionalism to me and to a lot of people that I hear from, it means that they are ready to learn on the job. It means that they have the skills, they have the basic skills that allow them to be taught, if that makes sense. So they know, the employers know that they don't have to worry about going over, are you going to show up on time? Are you going to be in dress code? Are you going to follow all the rules? That you're there and you're ready to learn. They oftentimes would rather have somebody who is a professional and who is adaptable and ready to learn, but maybe doesn't have their specific technical skills they're looking for. They oftentimes will look for that person over somebody who might have 10 years of experience, but maybe is a little burned out and maybe isn't the utmost professional these days, and isn't showing up on time, or maybe, maybe comes to an interview looking a little shabby. So it's really just kind of, it's an attitude that employers are looking for.
So once students graduate from college and they're hired into a job, a lot of times they may feel like, all right, I'm done with the learning. I get to take a break for a little while. But like you mentioned, and like the research tells us, employers tell us that they want employees who are continuously seeking opportunities for growth. So that idea of career and self-development. So why does that characteristic matter so much to employers?
First, I'm going to show you that I practice what I preach. So these are all sitting on my desk right now. So we've got 5 dysfunctions of a team. We've got good to great. We've got traction, and we've got radical candor. Trying to get some folks that I work with maybe to start a book club. But I think it's because it is so important to be able to adapt quickly. We've honestly, the couple of years before COVID, I started hearing people preaching about this new economy that was coming, and the way the workforce was changing, or was going to have to change because jobs were changing. And really that was backed up by automation on all levels. And there's a lot of jobs that we said, well, you can't automate that, like personal assistants and things like that. Guess what? You sure can. So in order to keep your job and in order to keep yourself relevant, you've got to be able to adapt and learn and move into higher levels of thinking and higher levels of skill, because those lower kind of just come in and check boxes and file papers every day, those jobs are going away. And so you've got to be able to adapt to the new economy.
I think often that students are uncomfortable with the idea of admitting that they don't know everything. There's the sense that, when I apply for a job, I have to be able to do 100% of the things that are on the job description. And so sometimes they'll talk themselves out of that. And we often coach them into, if you feel like you can do half and you can be trained to do the other half, then let them tell you no. Like, you need to give it a shot within there. And I think that does speak to the idea of employers are okay if you tell them, I don't know how to do that. How can I learn? As long as the next part of that phrase is, what kind of training is there? How can I learn how we do it here? And so I think it's important for them to know it's okay to say, I don't know how to do that, but also be willing to be adaptable and coachable within there to learn how to do it.
Right, right. And it's okay to say that up front. If you can say, I don't know how to use this automated machine, but I did learn very quickly in my previous job when I had to learn XYZ. And so you can say, I don't have that skill, but here's how I can show you that I learned a similar skill in the past. And here's how I'm proving to you I'm a good learner. Kind of along the same note, and I give this piece of advice to every single student I talk to, kids that I mentor, all sorts of people. I will say in my career at the city, the number one thing that helped me was knowing what was going on in the organization. Knowing where, if the city I worked for needed a new fire truck, if the police department was having some sort of a crisis, or if we were having trouble hiring officers, or if the zoning department had some controversial case. And you can apply that. It doesn't have to apply to a city. It can apply to any organization. You are going to be a much more valuable member of the organization, and therefore be more prone to receiving promotions and raises and more responsibility if you're aware what's happening throughout the organization, because you're going to be more responsive when you work through your budget. For example, don't ask for a big, huge new budget when we're trying to buy a fire truck, or don't ask for 3 new staff members when you know that department down the hall from you is down 12. And I'm stay in your lane. I'm not saying go try to manage other people's departments, but just be fully aware of what's going on. And it also kind of helps you build relationships with your colleagues, because you know what they're going through, and you can be at least emotionally supportive of what's happening in their world.
So to kind of summarize, in thinking about the idea of career and self-development and professionalism as 2 of the things that employers tell us that they're looking for in their new hires. What are a couple of tips that you would have for how students can gain competency within these 2 areas while they're still in school and working, maybe not working? We know students kind of have a very wide variety of ways that they gain experience. So what are some tips that you would recommend for how they can brush up on their skills in these 2 areas?
Sure. If you are working, find people in the organization that you're working for that you don't even have to go say, will you be my mentor? but just model yourself after them. Pay attention to the books on their shelves. Pay attention to the groups that they are members of. Are they involved in civic clubs? Are they supportive of the local community in another way that you can kind of model yourself after? Watch how they interact with others in staff meetings and in meetings within the organization. I would also say, if you're not working in the world of social media, we've got access to the minds of a lot of people that we really didn't have access to before. So try to find people, and there's a lot of them in the business world. You can find them on Instagram and Twitter, that really you connect with kind of on an emotional level, and you go, I like what that person has done with their life. Find out how they got there. Find out how their story evolved and the hard things they went through. I think it's super important to remember you can do hard things. It's probably the biggest thing we need to remember in our careers. It's not the easy things that get us to where we are, it's the hard things. And so figure out what were the failures that your role models had to struggle through, and how did they overcome those failures? Or what were the big obstacles that they made their way through, and how did they recover on the other side of it?
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate your insights for our level up students.
Yes, ma'am.